Hello, I'm here in my Henrietta Raven Boys, if you know, you know, t-shirt. I feel like this is a good fall shirt. You can also see a quarter of Orphe's eye over there. And I'm here, oh, hold on. Sorry, I needed my list. To do a quick fall recommendations video. I'm actually filming two little clips here, but this will be the first one you see. Fall recommendations specifically for people who are scaredy cats like me, though I feel like I'm kind of a weird in-between. Like, I really don't like horror movies, but I do feel like I can handle horror in books and occasionally video games. Like, I feel like I've really loved... Oh, maybe I'll include that in this video too. Hold on, let me write a few of these down. Okay, I'm back. What I was going to say is I really love also watching Let's Players on YouTube play horror games. I feel like it kind of leaves like a level of dissociation for me, but I just decided just now to do a quick rundown of some recommendations on that front as well. Now, I haven't really watched those as much recently. That was more like a college, high school thing. I need to get back into that because I've always enjoyed some good Let's Plays. But anyway, let me quickly go through the books and then I'll do the video games and then that'll be it. So my first book is tried and true, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is my favorite book of all time, but it's also perfect for fall. I've talked about this a lot. I'm sure you know what this is about, but it's basically about this girl named Alex who goes to Yale. She's kind of there on a scholarship because she can see ghosts, and the society there called Lethe is very interested in her because of that, but I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. Lethe is this society at Yale that kind of is a police force for the rest of there's like a bunch of secret societies, and they kind of make sure that those secret societies aren't getting up to anything fishy. All the secret societies are actual real Yale secret societies, but obviously in this series, it's like the magic is real, you know? I love this book and I love the sequel so much. The sequel is my favorite book of 2023. I love the plot, I love the characters, I love the relationships. I just think it's a masterpiece. I have mixed feelings on Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse, but I think this is the shit. It's so good. And perfect for fall. And not too scary. I don't know. I'm thinking of a few things in my head that are definitely a bit frightening. There was a few scenes in here that I was frightened of, but I feel like, I don't know, something for me is I feel like if there's like humor involved, it kind of helps me, you know, when it's balanced like that. But anyway, this is my first rec. My second rec is my most recent favorite on this list, and that's Summer Sons by Lee Mandello. I am currently making a video where I do talk briefly about this, but I don't think that will definitely not be out yet either because I really struggle. This is about this boy named Andrew who is like 22, 23. And then before the book started, his best friend Eddie died. And Eddie and him were like supposed to move to Tennessee together and like go to grad school together. But Eddie moved without Andrew and like started school without him and kept kind of pushing off Andrew moving down. And Andrew didn't really know why. And so Eddie dies and everybody's saying Eddie killed himself. And Andrew does not think so. He's adamant that Eddie did not kill himself and that something more nefarious is going on. And there's also, I mean, it's a ghost story, basically. Like, Andrew and Eddie have these, like, ghost powers. I won't say anything else because I feel like the best part, or one of the best parts about this book for me was the build. I think the first 100 pages are a slog. I will admit that. I did struggle. But once I hit page 100, I was invested. The crumbs Lee Mandello, sorry, I forgot their last name for a second. The crumbs Lee Mandello gave me was just enough to like keep me going and going, and the build is so good. I think it's worth it. So like I feel like when you start this, if you're not into it, give it into like page 100, page 150 and see how you're feeling then. This one is probably the scariest. Let me check my list. Yeah. No, I have one more that may be scarier. But this one is pretty disturbing at some points, all the ghost stuff. But the main part of this book is about the relationship. So again, I feel like if you're a scaredy cat like me, you can kind of just focus on that. Yeah, but I loved this book. All right. The next one on my list is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, I think. I also read this year. This is a new edition. I think this book is kind of similar to Summer Sons in a way that it's a lot about the relationships. It's about this girl whose name I am totally forgetting. I will flash it on the screen. And she's trying to save her cousin from this house. Like, her cousin got married and moved in with this guy. And basically, the cousin, like the main character, thinks that something weird is going on. So she goes there to try and rescue her, essentially. And then it's kind of like a mystery within this house. Again, this one is also a slow build. Like, things don't get really weird and spooky until like the last quarter of the book. But I kind of liked like the other parts. Like, I understand why a lot of people didn't like this book as much, because it's really just this main character like asking everybody questions and like trying to figure out what's going on. But I think as somebody who loved the Nancy Drew CD-ROM games, I truly enjoyed like just like watching her like investigate. And then it got really scary and disturbing at the end. Let me, if I can find it, I have a Snapchat of myself reading this book where I am just not having a good time. But again, I feel like if you're into spooky shit, like, you will like it. And if you're not as much, you know, like, I don't know. It was just crazy. Like, I can't say I enjoyed the spooky stuff, but in the end, I was so invested in our main character and her relationships. Like, I wanted her to get the fuck out of that house. So I had to know. But yeah, I give this one 4 stars. The other 2, I think everything else on this list, this list is all 4 and 5 stars, just for, so you know. The next one on my list is Six Deaths of a Saint by Alex E. Harrow. This is the only Alex E. Harrow book I've read, and it's like a short story, so I haven't even really read one of her books, which, sorry, I need to do that. But this short story, I don't even want to say what it's about, because it's like literally 50 pages or less, and it's great. And I don't think it's really spooky, but I feel like I think I read this in fall of this, or maybe winter. I think I read it this year. If I didn't, it was fall last year, and it just was like, it was perfect. It was a quick I listened to it on audio, and it was just like, like really, it's like one of those ones you want to read when it's like raining or cold. So I think this one is really good. The next one I have, hold on, I have it on my bed over here, is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Kristen Lynn Herman. Actually, I always say Kristen and it's Christine, but I think they're using a different name. So I will put that on the screen too. I am forgetting everything. I think they're using a different name now. Anyway, I feel like this YA duology is like overhyped and underhyped at the same time. I loved it. I feel like a lot of people like found it through Book Talk, and then they were underwhelmed by it, and then also nobody talks about it. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but this is basically, I feel like it's pitched as like a darker not darker Hunger Games, because Hunger Games is very dark, but like Hunger Games-esque, and like it's all these teenagers who are villains, and like because it's YA, there are certain tropes in place where you're like, you have to go into it knowing that they're not actually going to be super villainous, which I know a lot of people were disappointed by, but I didn't really have that expectation. And I thought the like message, the whole message of the book is like, this town like sends these teenagers into these games because they're cursed. I forget exactly, like, it's just like a curse and they have to do it. Like, I think that's literally the only explanation you get. So the whole message is like, all these kids are too young to like do this, kind of like the Hunger Games, that same messaging. And some of the characters do pretty messed up stuff. So like, I was satisfied, especially the sequel to this book. There is a romance in it that I literally lost my mind, like kicking my feet, giggling, like so good. I think this first book, I feel like the second book is less like spooky, scary, but I think this book specifically is really good for fall. And I think the books are like back to back. They take place within the same like month or whatever. And I think it's in fall. So yeah, really love this duology. I have 2 more recs. The next one is If We Were Villains by Emma Rio. This is like, everyone knows this one, but it's basically like a Shakespearean theater school and like a group of kids. It's always compared to that, what's that one book called by that lady? That Donna Tartt book. I can't remember the name. The Secret History? I think that's it. I don't know how I remember that. But I again, this is like a perfect fall read. It's a mystery. I'm not going to say anything else except like it's a Shakespearean group of kids, and like one of them's been in jail for 10 years, and you're like, why has he been in jail for 10 years? Like, what's going on? And like the relationships between two main characters, like all the characters, and the ending is what really like cemented this book for me as a 5-star. Like the whole time I was like invested in enjoying it, but it was like a 4-star read, and that ending was so good. And I'm not going to say anything else. So lastly, my last recommendation for fall feeling, fall core, if you will, is Ace of Spades by, oh my gosh, what's her name? It's on the screen. Here it is. Which also, she's coming out with something new. I'm very excited for that. But anyway, Ace of Spades is basically, it's like Dark Academia, but a different way than Ninth House is. It's like it's like a thriller, a modern school thriller almost, if that makes any sense. So these two black kids in this private school, and all of a sudden like all this weird shit starts happening. Like they're getting targeted basically, and just like going from there, and like about those kids and like their life and like things they've gone through in their past as well. And it, like, I was on the edge of my seat this entire book. Like I listened to the audiobook, and I listened to it so quickly. I was very invested in the end. Again, I feel like the common thread through a lot of these books is the endings are absolutely like buck wild, insane, and just like crazy. Like especially this one, and probably Mexican Gothic. I was like, I could not have seen this coming if I tried. So good. Highly recommend. And then quickly, I'm just going to run through some games that I watched people play online that on YouTube that I really loved. Most of them I watched Markiplier play. I also love Rad Brad. And then I watched, well, the first one I'll say is I watched somebody play Resident Evil 4. I think it was Dude Long Couch, I think is the username. I'll put a picture. But I loved his playthrough of Resident Evil 4. I've also watched a lot of the other Resident Evil games, and there's like remakes and all this stuff. I think those are really fun to watch, and those are games I would never want to play. All these games are games I would never want to play. So it's nice that I could just watch somebody else play it in the comfort of my own home. So I love Resident Evil 4 because I love the characters, especially Leon. He's hilarious. And then I have Outlast on here, which is this is the most disturbing out of all the ones I've listed. I watched this at 15, which was a terrible idea. I don't recommend that. Like, this is like This is like rated mature. This is like NC-17 shit. It is very scary, but it's basically about this guy who, classic setup is like, there's this abandoned asylum, and he's going there to like, he's a journalist, and he's going there to like get footage of it. But I think the genius of Outlast comes from the main character is filming, like you are looking through his camcorder, and the camcorder has a light, and it's all based on batteries, and you have to find batteries, and if you run out of batteries, you're in the dark, and it's like stressful. I watched Markiplier play this one. It's pretty old, like he's young in these Let's Plays, but I actually rewatched it recently with my fiance, and it absolutely held up. Again, the end of Outlast is insane. I'm not gonna say anything else, but I think this one is much better than Outlast 2. Outlast 2 was kind of disappointing for me, but Outlast 1 still holds up. Next is The Evil Within. I love Ruvik, who is the villain in this game. He wasn't in The Evil Within 2, which was also good, but I was upset Ruvik wasn't in it. I also watched Markiplier play this one. I watched Rad Brad play Evil Within 2, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Evil Within is kind of similar. I really like The Evil Within because it's about this main character who's a detective, and he's having all these like hallucinations. I forget, it's been a long time since I've watched this one, but like it's this like back and forth of like what's real, what's in his head situation. And he's like investigating, I think, a hospital. He's investigating some place. I might be mixing up the first and the second game, but the whole like shtick is that to like upgrade his character, you have to like go inside his head and like his like mind palace, like Sherlock. So there's a lot of like mental stuff going on. But anyway, I love the villain in this game. I think he has a very interesting backstory, and like the way his mechanics are in the game were just really well done. I think I really like that one. A couple classics. Five Nights at Freddy's. I watched Markiplier play like all of those games. They scared the bejesus out of me because it's basically all jump scare based, but I think in the most effective way. I mean, there's a reason Five Nights at Freddy's is so famous, and like the movie's coming out. I'm very excited about that. But I just think if you want a good old time, watch Markiplier play Five Nights at Freddy's. He's so entertaining. I love him. Next is Alien Isolation. This one's kind of random. I've not seen a single Alien movie, but again, I was just going through this phase where I was watching like all of Markiplier's horror, like I like watching his narrative Let's Plays, if that makes sense, especially if they're horror games. And I watched him play Alien Isolation, and for some reason I just got really invested in it. Like I think it was less about the story and more about, I could just tell how difficult the game was. I just realized these books were in the frame the whole time. Whoops. How difficult the game was and how hard Markiplier had to try to like do all this stuff. And I was just impressed. I was like, I could never, ever, ever play this game because you could like only save once every million years. Like, I have no idea how he did it. My last two recs, one is Until Dawn. I feel like that's another classic. That's like one of those things where you're like making choices on the dime. I feel like a lot of people have heard this game, but it's about a group of kids who go to like, I think it's like a ski lodge, and they're like, it's like a college reunion type of situation. And again, I watched this a while ago, so I forget like what supernatural thing is happening or like what exactly was going on. But then basically the goal is to try and help all of them survive, or, you know, try and kill them if that's your vibe when it comes to playing video games. But this Markiplier's playthrough of this is also super entertaining. I know Brad has done a lot of games from this company as well, which I've enjoyed watching. But sometimes I like Brad because he kind of plays the everyman. Like, he picks all the good choices, where sometimes Markiplier like stresses me out and picks like the choices he knows are going to be more entertaining to him. And I'm like, no, please, just pick the good route. But anyway, there's just different playing styles. But Markiplier's playthrough of Until Dawn is super entertaining. I felt so bad for him trying to play this game. And then my last rec is this game called Soma. I apologize because I'm going to have very little to say because I don't remember a lot from this game. Again, I watched it in high school, and I remember like being blown away by it, but I don't remember hardly anything about it. But I think that's okay. I will just recommend you go watch Markiplier's playthrough. I think it's a bit shorter than the rest of the games on this list, so it's less of a commitment. Like, I don't know. I remember FNAF specifically is like a big commitment. Like, I've seen so many of those YouTube videos. But anyway, those are my fall recs. Some books and a little surprise Let's Play edition. So I hope that you check these out and let me know what you think. All right, bye.